Hey everyone, Shawn Clement here. We're gonna show you how grass whips, hockey sticks, hammers, and a multitude of other tools are gonna help you simplify the game beyond belief so that you can evolve into the golfer you're supposed to be. Enjoy. Hey everyone, Shawn Clement here at the gorgeous Royal Quebec Golf Club in beautiful Quebec City, and today we're going to show you how to compress the ball to get more spin, flight your balls properly, get control on those greens. So here we go. Now, I've used these alignment rods that I put into the ground, and you can bring these to the range to simulate a door frame. So imagine this is a door frame, and I'll face you for this one here. So if I got my ball set up against the door frame like this, and my task was to squeeze the ball, sandwich the ball between the club face and the door frame, how would I set up? And this is going to work wonders for your ball position, just so you know instinctively how to set up for your ball position. So if I'm going to have a ball position that's way too far forward, I'm going to have to lunge like crazy to try and squeeze that up against the door frame. If the ball was too far back in my stance, I'd have to reach back in order to squeeze that ball into the door frame. So where would I position myself to feel like I could really squeeze it with a lot of compression into that door frame? Now, just like when you get a heavy hammer like this, is the Home Depot special 4-pound hammer. It is tremendous. So when I'm putting in my stakes, like I really don't have to work very hard. I'm just letting the weight of the hammer do the job for me. And that's why we say let the club do the work. So imagine I've got a nail sticking out of this door frame, and I'm going to let the weight of the hammer squeeze through. So you notice how lovely the pause was. There was no need to yank it back and shove it through. I just felt the weight of the hammer, and I'm using the weight of the hammer to squeeze through that door frame. So you put it up against the door frame, you get a lob wedge, and you have fun just giving it a little bit of a squeeze. And notice my hands are forward. Notice where my head is. It's behind. I would never put my head in front of the door frame. I can't see the ball anymore. There we go. If I lean back too much, now the ball's going to fly up the door frame, no good. And if I lean forward too much, now I'm gouging the floor. So the goal is to squeeze the ball straight through the door frame without gouging the floor. So here we go. When I do that, I'm never going to pick the club up straight up into the air. When you see somebody set up here on the range and in the backswing, they end up here. See how my head moved forward? That's the body language of somebody trying to hit a golf ball. If I want to drive the ball that way, well, notice my takeaway looks very different now. Now it feels like I can drive the golf ball in that direction. So notice when I applied pressure, the ball squeezed up the club face and popped up. So that's a great way to really get the visual and the feel and the instinct on compressing the ball. So when you get on the range, you stick an alignment rod there, play the ball slightly behind it, and pretend you're right up against that door frame. And just feel how you'd be squeezing that ball through the door frame. So the divot starts only at the door frame and ends up being well in front. So you'll start getting the visual to get the proper divot here. So you say, okay, I'm driving that ball straight through the door frame. There it is. So as I'm squeezing the ball, notice the sole of the club is still on the ground. Now I'm cutting that dandelion stem. See how it's creeping up the face? Now I've got the door frame. That's where the sole of the club starts hitting the ground. And it's going to follow the ground for how long? Well, can you see how long that's going to be? So I'm going through the door frame along the ground, and then it exits the grass and ground over here. So it really shows you exactly where that divot should come out. It's an extremely powerful visual. So you go up the ladder, And you want to do the same thing, say, with a 3-iron. I want to squeeze that ball straight into the door frame. Well, if I play the ball too far forward, you know when they say play the ball this far forward with the long irons and this far back with the short irons? Well, you'll realize that that's not quite accurate. This feels like I can really crush that ball up against the door frame. Can you see how I can put some good pressure on that shaft? If the ball was too far forward, it doesn't feel like I can compress anything from here because I have to go lunge for it. If it's, you know, opposite the instep, same thing. It feels like I have to go fetch it. Whereas here, it feels like I can use the weight of my instrument to apply some nice pressure. So, same thing here. I pretend that ball is right up against that door frame. There we go. And I'm just about to squeeze that ball through the door frame in the direction I want that ball to go. So I can feel where my head needs to be. And now I'm just going to use the weight of my instrument to squeeze through that door frame. And that was absolutely pummeled right in the center of that club face. So you want to compress the ball, use the door frame analogy. I use this analogy and I have this in mind when I'm trying to flight a ball down against the wind, into the wind. So if I wanted to hit a very low 7-iron into the wind, I'm going to put that right up against the door frame here. So to show you what it would look like on this angle, I'm going to play the ball just a bit more back, close the face a bit more, and feel like I'm going to squeeze the ball a little bit down and under the door frame. So that gives me a really terrific idea on how to flight that down. So a little bit more back, head still behind the door frame. I've closed the face a little bit more. I'm going to use the weight of the instrument. You see how nice and low that 7-iron took off? Versus, you all remember how we talked about cutting through the dandelion stem. So if I play the ball a little bit more forward in my stance and I close the face a little bit less, notice how I say close the face less. This is my draw grip. The hand's lead, I'm collecting slightly open and I'm releasing slightly closed for the draw. Fade, notice the face is still looking closed. I'm collecting open and releasing slightly open for the fade. So I'm looking for that same door frame analogy. So if I play that ball a little more forward, so a little forward to center, I still can squeeze the ball into the door frame, but now it feels like the ball's going to creep up the door frame a little bit more aggressively, and that's going to flight the ball a lot higher. So if I'm downwind and I need to land the ball nice and soft, like I'm at the US Open, and I've got cement greens, I'll play the ball forward to center, close the face a bit less, squeeze through the door frame. Notice now that ball's going up much higher and the divot is much shallower, right? So you're going to barely brush the grass. You're not going to take as deep a divot because you're playing the ball a little more forward versus a little bit back. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one.